Welcome to the Magnetic Man podcast with your host, Daniel White. And what we do on this podcast is we help men create a situation that they can be proud of in terms of their dating life, the man that they want to be, so that they can also attract a woman into their life that they feel proud of, not only themselves, but also that they can bring into their community, their family, friends, and be with someone that you can be proud of. I mean, who doesn't want that? And in today's session, we're going to be doing a call and a breakdown and a deep dive with Oliver Cowlishaw. I hope I pronounced that right. He's a men's transformational coach, which can be a title on the surface, but his work goes a lot deeper than that. Been following his stuff for a while. I think he makes really good points. So, Oliver, we wanted to get you on here today and kind of unpack a little bit about you, your story, and the message you want to share with men.
Yes, Daniel. Thank you for the invitation, man. Glad to be here.
Yeah, awesome stuff, man. So I like to kick these off just to get to know the person who's talking to us, and my audience can get to know you as well. Obviously, you're this man now who helps men in terms of his dating life, but I see you cover other things in terms of fitness and healing trauma. There's a lot that goes into it. But I want to hear your story because I feel like there's a lot of lessons in men's journey, not just what they say, but what they've actually experienced. So as you probably know, a lot of how we're shaped as men came from our early childhood influences. For me, I was raised by a single mom. My dad wasn't really around. So that had a lot of impact on me and my journey. What was it like for you? Were you like a shy kid? Was mom and dad both there? Yeah, start us off with a bit of that and we'll unpack it.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting you asked this now because I was talking to a client about this just yesterday. So I was a very emotionally sensitive kid looking back. In the house, I mean, my father was and has been a very sort of challenging person. Less so recently, but when I was a kid, I was fucking terrified of him because he was an alcoholic, very critical, very harsh, very judgmental, and my mum was kind of this wallflower figure. She wasn't really. I think she was just as eager to avoid his wrath and fury as I was. So that was when I was very young, and I just remember feeling everything. It was really weird. I was like this vessel, and I was just feeling everything that wasn't being said. So I think, I mean, not to jump the gun, but throughout my life, that kind of gave me a sensitivity to incongruence. With like, is this person saying, is there a rift between what this person is saying and how they're showing up? I became very sensitive to that from a young age. But the bit I was talking to a client about yesterday was related to how the nice guy syndrome actually forms. And there's general sort of patterns that you can observe, but everyone's story is a bit unique in this way. So when I was very young, I was actually kind of quite an aggressive, violent kid. Like when I went to primary school, I wanted to wrestle everyone and grapple everyone, and I was trying to fight constantly. And I used to draw. Everything I was interested in was something to do with war and battles, and the movies I'd like to watch and the video games I'd play. It's all centered around conflict and battle and whatnot. And then at some point, I went to school and I drew I think one of the things I drew was just pretty fucked up, honestly. I think it was just lots of blood and gore. And they freaked out and they sent a letter of concern to my parents. And then the reaction was I think the first seed of me repressing assertiveness, conflict, and whatnot. Because their reaction was so intense that they were basically just like, they took away all my toy guns away. They forbid me from playing violent video games. They forbid me from watching movies that had any kind of violence in them whatsoever. I was going to go to Taekwondo, but then they forbid me from doing that because they thought it would make me more violent. And they essentially gave me the message that this part of you, not okay. So you need to hide this now. You need to get rid of this. They didn't say that overtly, obviously, but I interpreted that as meaning that. when I was that age. So then I did. I was like, right, okay, I guess I can't be that then, which set me up for when I went to high school to be bullied, which is essentially what happened for years. I had no assertiveness, um, so I was bullied and devastated my confidence, devastated my self esteem, and so that basically made the first sort of I don't know certain 14 years I would say of my life to just be like truly awful, honestly. And it all came from it was such a mind fuck because I was a kid who could handle myself. I've always been good at fighting, like even as an adult. Like I do Muay Thai, I fight now, and I've had some MMA fights and stuff, so I'm good at it. But back then it was such a head fuck because I was like, I'm being bullied by kids who I could kick the crap out of. But there was some trauma response whenever someone would have a problem with me or something. I just sort of freeze up, and that's related to people pleasers and nice guy syndrome because a lot of the time they fear conflict, and it's like logically they can tell, oh, this is not right, but they actually have their nervous system literally fires up and goes into a freeze response or whatever, and that's what was happening for me pretty much permanently. And then around the age of 14, sadly, my mother passed away because she got pancreatic cancer, and it took about 4 weeks because pancreatic cancer has got like a 98% death rate. So when we got the news, it was pretty much, yeah, that was pretty much it. And then around that time, I kind of dissociated. Oh, my mic muted. Yeah, around this time, I kind of the emotions were so intense and the pain was so intense that I just went into a pretty much a dissociative haze that lasted for years, where I was completely cut off from my emotions and intellectualizing everything, and I didn't even feel like my life was really mine. And that only kind of thawed out about 5 years ago. I had some basically I had a relationship experience. Actually, I think it was longer than 5 years. It's hard to tell. I'm 32 now. It was mid-20s, I think. I had a relationship breakdown because here's how the lack of assertiveness, a lack of an edge, and essentially a repression of certain masculine energy, right? This led me to being Mr. Nice Guy, ineffectual, no assertiveness, no backbone in relationships. And eventually I was with a woman who essentially cheated on me and left me for somebody else. And that was kind of an emotional unraveling. Like it really messed with me in ways that way beyond what a breakup would usually do. And it's because it brought back all the trauma of my mum passing away that I'd not processed. And also a lot related to how I was raised by my father and stuff. But then, so I kind of did some work on that. I experimented with psychedelics around that time as well. Not like I intended to do it recreationally, but it's like my subconscious had other plans. I was like, oh, this will be fun, and my subconscious is like, no, it won't. I'm going to show you exactly what you need to be shown. But I didn't have the capacity to integrate it properly at the time. So it was just ended up being a horrible experience that was actually very useful.
Okay, I don't want to go on here because you're going on to so many juicy points here. So I just want to kind of recap and then pick a couple of these apart, and then we'll pick up the story because I definitely want to hear more about that. So it's like you grew up, father's kind of overbearing, very scared of him, alcoholic, which is similar to me. It's funny because you still seem like you had that anger inside of you, and there was like an event that switched it out. Where for me, it was more like just seeing dad and like this aggressiveness. It's almost like I didn't like being around that. So then I suppressed that part of myself as well, like, hey, that was terrifying to experience. So I don't want anyone to experience that part of me. But as you mentioned, it's like flushing out the baby with the bathwater because there's some good things in anger that you need, and especially in relationships with women. But the nice guy, as you said, he's just most of the time completely abandoned his anger. He thinks it's bad, it's wrong, he's controlling. And for me, I was like, oh, because if I'm angry, I'm going to turn into my abusive father, which is maybe the shadow side of anger, but there's also a healthy side. So I want to hear
Mm.
a bit more about your early experiences with women. So in high school, you kind of bullied, picked on, you're not like expressing, you're avoiding confrontation. What were some of your first experiences with women? You ask a girl out, she says no. Did you have like a girlfriend back then? Like, tell me a bit more about that.
Yeah. So early experiences with women. Well, for the most part, again, in primary school, this wasn't as much the case. Things were kind of progressing normally, but then in secondary school, um, sorry, yeah, I got that right. In secondary school, I just had this. I was practically invisible. Like I felt practically invisible because it's funny how uh, like reality is a mirror. Like I was trying my hardest to be invisible internally, right, by hiding so much of myself out of as a safety mechanism because that's what I've learned. So then women saw me, they didn't see me, right? Not because I wasn't good looking or whatever. It was just because of that's what I was doing. Um, so I was more or less invisible to women and girls until I was like well into college. I had one girlfriend in like primary school, but then I was so anxious and nervous that for me, when I'd get a girlfriend, that basically just meant okay, there's a person I'm never going to speak to. That was dead strange. It's like I did have a girlfriend in secondary school when I first sort of got there. This was almost by it felt like luck, honestly. And I just was so petrified of talking to her that I spoke to her more before we made it official than after, which was really fucked. So I was always super nervous around girls, man. Yeah, it was petrified.
And then, like in college, is it like, oh, I'm going out to bars with my friends, getting drunk, trying to chat up girls? Like, what are those experiences like? And what were some of the results you were getting around that time? Were you starting to find your feet yet, or was it still pretty disastrous? Talk to us.
Pretty disastrous, mate. Honestly, in college, this was what? So this was no, actually, before college, I kind of had this consistent experience of being friend zoned. Right.
Mm, mm.
This
Tell me about
happened.
a girl you really liked and how she friend zoned you, because I'm sure it happened.
Yeah, yeah. There was one girl who, man, it was such a mind fuck because I was operating under the script because I've not been taught any other way. I thought to myself, if I'm just really friendly and I get close to her in proximity, then at some point this must like develop into something romantic. But it was it was so maddening because we got close as friends and she was entertaining that friendship. But then she'd go and fuck these guys who were just absolutely diabolical human beings. I'm talking like they were just awful people, actually. And everyone in the school knew, like, just how bad these kids were. Like, they were just, and I was there just being Mr. Nice Guy friend. Like, hang on a minute, I'm right here. What the fuck's going on? Why are you banging these guys? And then I'm out of, I'm off limits, apparently. That was the most maddening thing about it. And that actually happened with three different girls. And I was just like, something ain't working here. But I
Yeah.
learned very slowly. I just wish at that point I had someone to come in and say, "Hey, by the way, man, this is actually not a good strategy. Like
Yeah.
you've
Yeah.
actually friend zoned yourself
Yeah.
completely,
Yeah.
and it's not them doing it as much as you just sort of entering into it."
Yeah. It's funny because the
So
nice guy, he does have a strategy. The guy will often say like, "Oh, I'm not interested in girls," and if something happens or not, but it's like they do have this covert strategy. I've lived it myself, and it actually makes like logical sense. It's like, okay, she's with the assholes. Those are bad guys, destructive guys. She keeps telling me how bad they are, how much she doesn't like them. Okay, well, surely the way to win here is let me be the opposite of that. Let me be the safe guy, the guy's always going to be there for her. The guy who's just got her back no matter what, does all these favors, doesn't be too pushy, doesn't ask her for anything. Like logically, it actually kind of makes sense. You're like, hey, maybe that does work. But for any guy who's done that strategy and tried it, like it just doesn't work, you know? So as good as it sounds, it's like, okay, well, what kind of results are that producing? But it takes like multiple times, and usually like a severe, like some girl you really liked and like poured your heart out to her and she just fucking crushes you and just goes and bangs your best mate. Like for most guys, they actually need an experience like that to like wake them up. And then they're like, okay, this isn't working. I need a shift strategy, because your identity gets wrapped up in the strategy. It's like, this is not a strategy. I am just this nice guy who's just nice, nice, nice. And it's like, you've meshed your identity with the strategy, and it's disastrous, you know? So as soon as guys can break out of that, and it seems like we all do it in our own time, and suffering seems a big component of it. Um, yeah, the sooner, the better that kind of happens. Yeah.
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 Yeah. It's funny as well, because what you said earlier about your relationship with your father, and how that influenced you by
Mm-hmm.
basically saying, right, I'm not going to be like that, because that, if that, like, that's your first representation of what a man is, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be like that. So it's almost like that sort of script, that life script of not being like my father, actually feeds. It's the same sort of dynamic as you see in, a woman who you like, and there's these assholes around her. You're like, right, I'm not going to be like that. It's the same dynamic, right? I'm not good. Right, I can see mum is upset by this guy, and is causing all kinds of pain because of the way he is. I'm not going to be like that. Fast forward 10, 15 years. Oh, I like this girl. She's seems to be upset by all these assholes. I'm not going to be like that. So again, it's like both dynamics are there. They serve to like invite us to repress a lot of
Yeah.
ourselves,
Yeah.
and that's one of the reasons it doesn't work, because it's like we're throwing the baby out with the bathwater by repressing all the stuff that we interpret that this woman doesn't like about these asshole guys, and by repressing all the stuff that we interpret we don't like about our dad that causes the pain. It's like we can't be so selective about. It's hard to like be selective about. I'm going to repress all that, but not these bits. It's like we're just going
Yeah.
to repress all the fucking lot of it. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So those are the healthy parts of masculine energy, as
Yeah.
well as the potentially shadow destructive parts. We just repress the
Yeah.
whole lot, and then we
Yeah.
become this stifled nice guy that gets frustrated,
Yeah.
which is was completely me for a bit, man. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, let's
Fuck.
pull on this thread a bit. I think you brought up a good point there, because it's almost like the way I see it, and some people disagree, is like I think boundaries is almost an act of microaggression. You know, it's basically telling someone, no, I don't like this, I don't appreciate this. But if you've completely thrown out anger, it's almost like you don't have not even the vocab, but it's like you don't have the potential to tell someone no. And it's interesting you mentioned the term mirror, because also the clients, some of the guys I work with, it's often like the nicest, most peaceful, sweetest guys that wouldn't hurt a fly. And they attract some of the most destructive, manipulative. It can be women, but often it comes in the form of like bosses and guys who just like totally disrespect them. But because they're just so nice, they're doing nothing about it. And they see it as like a badge of honor. Like, look what a good guy I am in this terrible world. But they're actually in massive shadow. And that manipulative person, they know their fucking aggression, and maybe they're using a dark side of it, but it's almost like they're trying to mirror something in you that you've disowned in yourself. So that guy you think is an asshole, or my dad was a prick and angry all the time, normally there's like a piece of something in them that you need to integrate that you've disowned in yourself, which is always fascinating. The universe has a wicked sense of humor. Let's just say that.
Too right. Yeah, too right. It's just so funny, man, because a part of my personal development in terms of shadow work, it's been a big part of it, has been also looking at my father and how there's certain ways in which I'm similar to him,
Mm,
which when I was a kid was the worst possible thing anyone could have told me. It's like, oh, the parts of you that are addicted, the parts of you that are actually, the rage that you may carry, all this other stuff, the parts of you that can be manipulative, that can say certain things that get a result, not necessarily because you want to tell the truth, but because you want to get something from someone. I'm like, shit, man, you telling me all that? is a parts of me in there. It's like, and universe is like, yeah, you're not you're not as different to your dad as you would like to believe. So don't push that away. So that's such a head fuck, mate.
Yeah.
I wish that wasn't the case, but yeah, it just requires self honesty, mate. This journey more than anything else.
Yeah, that's a big one. Okay, there's a lot of places we could go down, but I want to go a bit back to you. Tell me about and you choose how much detail you want to go into the time you lost your virginity. What was that experience like? Fun, scary, good, bad? Who was the girl? I'm always curious to hear guys' first time story.
Yeah. Good question. Yeah. uh, so it was. I was 15, and it was.
That's pretty young compared to most guys. I was quite late bloomer. I was like 19, 20, but 15. I think also in the UK, it's I don't know if it's a stereotype, but people get sexually active quite early over there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly wasn't the only one in my friend group.
Yeah.
I wasn't particularly early, so
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
kind of normal,
Yeah.
honestly. Um, but yeah, so it was with a woman who was a couple of years older. So I don't know what the legalities are of that. It's a
Yeah.
bit of a grey area, honestly. Actually, looking at it now I'm thinking about it. Fucking hell. But yeah, no, I think she was 16 or 17. I know, no older. But she basically, it just kind of, it felt like on my side that I did basically nothing to like it. I didn't flirt. I didn't know how to flirt or anything like that. But we just had a house party at one of my friends' places. Who he lives on a farm, and she was sort of invited to the party. And then she was, yeah, she just started chatting to me, and she seems to just really like me. And I was like, very suspicious. I was like, what? In my head, I was thinking, what's her agenda?
Yeah.
What's going on here? There
Yeah.
seems to be something. Is she mistaking me for someone else? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I couldn't in my head fathom that she liked me, but she did. And then we started dating and went out for a couple of days, and then yeah, and then she came over for a sleepover, and it was, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I was like
Mm-hmm.
robotic,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I was so anxious.
Yeah.
You know what's weird though? I was so anxious that I couldn't finish, but that actually stood me in pretty good stead because she was like, "Oh, you did really well there," and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I don't think I did. I was just a bit of an anxious mess, honestly. You kind of took
Yeah.
over there.
Yeah.
But because I was so nervous, I lasted a while. So I was
Yeah.
like, I'll take it. I'll take
Yeah.
that. Why not?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's cool. And what,
Um,
what what happened with her? Like, did you develop feelings after, or you never really saw anything long term with her? Did it end soon after, or what happened?
mate, I became a needy, approval seeking mess after that. And then at some point, it's heartbreaking, man. It's so embarrassing. At some point, my older brother calls me and he says, "Hey, man, do you know, like, I was just in the Bull's Head, which is like a pub in town." And he was like, "You know that I just saw her with two guys. Do you know about this?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "Oh, man, yeah." And it wasn't friendly. And I was just like, "Oh, fuck." it's like it's like the reality. I was always like a 3 steps behind, you know, because I was all hazy and I wasn't. I don't know, man. It's weird. Around that time, I wasn't really awake. I wasn't really with
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
I was just going through the motions. So that was so that ended because you just started sleeping with someone else, and I was like, right, okay. Um, so
were you
yeah,
quite
that was.
heartbroken by that?
Um, I was honestly, yeah. I tried texting her repeatedly. Um, which obviously it's just a road that leads nowhere. It's like, oh yeah, if I just text her more, I'll show
Yeah,
her how into her I am, and that will make her
yeah,
into me. It's like, oh
yeah.
god,
A
no.
nice
Fuck.
guy, nice guy. I'm just gonna keep pouring it in, and eventually I'll get something back. Yeah,
Yeah, which
yeah. Well, it's cool to
logically
hear.
makes sense. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's cool to hear, like, I like it when guys are teaching this stuff because they've been through it themselves, which obviously you clearly have. So when's the kind of turning point moment for you? Is there like one moment, like a heartbreak moment? When you start getting into all like the dating tips or the red pill stuff, like is that like happen gradually or like kind of a sudden moment where you're like, shit, I got to sort this out. What I'm doing isn't working, and you read a book or hire a mentor? Like, yeah, tell me about that.
Yeah, man. So what happened was around 17, I started dating a woman, and she was like my longest relationship to date. So we were together for 4.5 years. During this time, I seem to have, in being with this woman, I seem to have resolved a lot of the stuff that was holding me back previously. Just a deep lack of self worth, a deep detachment from my own being attractive as a person, as a man, just felt impossible. But this relationship kind of did help me. It was like a mirror that helped me see that I don't know. I actually have more value and worth than I thought previously. So that went well until eventually, I think, toward the end of the relationship, it became clear that I was actually still kind of stuck on trauma that I'd not processed, because I'd essentially turned her into my surrogate mother,
Mm. Mm.
right? And I think at some point she kind of recognized this, and so she left me for someone else when she like one of her friends from uni. She's dating. She's married to him now, actually, so it all kind of worked out for her. But she was with him, and looking back, I was utterly devastated. Like
Yeah.
it
Even
was
worse
this.
than the virginity girl.
Oh man, it was absolute. It was an existential crisis, honestly, when that happened, because I felt like I'd lost my mum all over again. Now, don't get me wrong. For like a few years while I was with her, she was happy to play the nurturing motherly role, because I think she had her own wounding, where it's like her value equals like saving people.
Yeah.
But eventually she evolved past it, and I couldn't evolve with her at the time, so she left.
Sounds
But
like
then
quite a
after
cool
that,
girl.
yeah, you know what? She just fucked up. Yeah, no. She is. I mean, I've not spoken to her for about a decade, but yeah. But after this, it was weird, right? Because even though I was in such tremendous pain, that also led to a massive expansion in my life. Like I've met loads of new people. I was going to festivals. I took up DJing. I was DJing at house parties and stuff. I hadn't intentionally ever gone. I hadn't read a dating book. I didn't even know what the red pill was. I didn't know what the game was until much later. I was just sort of this, and I became a full blown hippie. So I was just interacting in all these hippie communities. I started running my own meditation events from this big abandoned steel mill factory. I got quite well known in some circles for that, and then yeah, and then there was just an absolute abundance of women in my life after that. So even though I was heartbroken over the past relationship, it kind of catapulted me into a new reality with that. So I didn't actually necessarily have to work on it. It was just by virtue of how I was showing up. And I still to this day don't quite know the nuts and bolts of what actually was going on there. But I just know that I didn't want to go back to what I was previously. So it was like a quick, rapid evolution. But I still had the nice guy programming. I'd never actually worked on that because it wasn't a conscious thing. But then I started dating a woman from Romania, this ice queen, very critical woman who was very much. She was like the physically the most attractive woman I had ever dated to that point. So I was completely like pedestalized her immediately. I was like, "Fucking hell, is she with me? Oh my god!" We were sleeping together, and I was just in my head. I was just thinking, "Am I actually dreaming? Is this actually happening?" This is how much I pedestalized her.
How did
Right,
you
proper
meet her?
nice guy
Was this
stuff.
at one of these events, or how'd you guys come into contact? Online dating?
Yeah, it was an open mic night. I went to an open mic night where a friend of mine was performing, and it was really quite bizarre because I just saw her, and instantly I was just like, "Fucking hell, who's that?" And I said to my friend, because he was a friend, she was a friend of the guy who I was there to see. And I pulled him to the side. I was like, mate, who the fuck is that? He was like, oh, that's such and such. Are you okay? And I was like, mate, I'm speaking to her. And he's like, yeah, she's single. Go for it. So we started chatting. And then, yeah, we were in this kind of on-off thing for like a year. But then we finally started dating. But then the nice guy programming came through over the course of, I think it was 9 months we were dating properly. And then the nice guy programming came through. No assertiveness, no backbone, pedestalized her, super needy. And rather than, like, in contrast to the previous relationship, my longest relationship, where she was quite nurturing about it, this woman didn't play that shit at all. She just was super frustrated, super critical, dead angry at me whenever I did something wrong. And this triggered my shame like a motherfucker. And it just was this absolute mess. And eventually, she cheated on me and fucked off. And then it was at that point where the pain was so tremendous, and it had just been a repeat of so many different experiences, that I was like, oh my God, what the fuck is going on in me, man? This can't be right. And that's what that was the turning point for me into men's work. It was like, chasing female validation has got me here. Maybe chasing more female validation is not what I need. Maybe I actually need connection with men. Maybe I need men around me to reflect to me what I'm not seeing or whatever. So then I read No More Mr. Nice Guy. I joined a men's group and I got to work, basically. And when I read No More Mr. Nice Guy, it kind of just, it felt like a spiritual experience. I'd never felt so seen. I was like, what the fuck? Who's this guy? And it seems like he's just been in the bushes watching me my whole life, just like taking notes on me. And I realized what I was doing wrong. My whole script around dating and relationships was wrong.
The paradigm was flawed. Yeah.
It was. And my strategy had been exposed. I was operating under the strategy we talked about earlier, but I didn't know it. I wasn't conscious of the strategy. It was just something I entered into. But then when I read the book, it was like, shit, that's what I've been up to the whole time. I've been trying to get laid using this strategy. And it's, as I say, it worked a little bit. It gave me some validation and stuff, but ultimately it always leads to that, because essentially in that relationship with the Romanian ice queen lady, she just lost respect for me completely, because I didn't respect myself. Fundamentally, I didn't respect my own needs, my own desires. I didn't set any boundaries with her.
So
when
give
she
me an
spoke to me,
example of like how that actually played out with her, like on a practical level, not setting boundaries or like anything you just mentioned. Like, what did that actually look like in the relationship?
yeah, got a classic example of this, because and it's one that resonates. I know it resonates with people deeply because it's one of my most popular YouTube videos. It's like almost like 300,000 views at this point. So yeah, basically one time in particular, we had this temporary long distance thing. She was in one part of the country, I was in another, and we'd meet in Coventry, which is a city in between. I drove down. I arrived. We agreed to meet at this restaurant, and I show up, and we agreed to meet at this time. It gets to this time, she's not there. Send her a message. She reads it, doesn't reply. I'm like, right, okay. I give it 10 more minutes. I'm like, right, okay, what's going on? Reads it, doesn't reply. Send another message. She doesn't read it. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Meanwhile, I'm sat in this restaurant. Other people are sat around sort of looking at me, a bit funny. And I feel very self-conscious. I'm like, it's very clear that I'm not here alone. But I'm also like, I've been sat here for a very long time at this point. So it gets to around 40, 45 minutes. And I'm still sat there, right? Obviously. But I haven't had an update in ages. But then she sort of strolls in, casual, sits down, says like, how you doing? And I get angry. I'm sat in my chair and I'm feeling angry about this, but I don't know how to handle it. I don't know how to navigate it. So now I just say, where have you been? And I had a bit of a barb in my voice because I was like, what's going on? And then straight away, she goes on the attack mode at me, saying, don't be getting angry at me. It was the train was late. So why are you getting angry for? And then I apologize for being angry. It's like, I don't think my self-respect has ever been that low than in that moment. Because it was like quite a... she had no problem raising her voice in public either. So it created a bit of a scene. So all these people around had seen this guy sit there for fucking ages, 40 minutes on his own. His missus walks in. She has a go at him. And they're all like, I'd never felt so small.
Yeah.
Once again, I was
feeling as a
back.
man like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was back once again. I was no longer like a 26, 27-year-old man at the time. I felt like I was 6 being scolded by dad, you know. So that's an example of me having no emotional boundaries, no time boundaries whatsoever. She could have been another 20 minutes, half an hour. I still would have sat there. Like, because I didn't respect my own time, right? Communication boundaries. There was none. She's happy to raise a voice in front of people and start berating me and whatnot. I'm getting angry and stuff. And I would never, at that point, ever say anything about that. I would never be like, any boundaries with how I want to be spoken to and stuff like that. Nope. And the reason why she went so apeshit about all this is because she knew she could get away with it. Because there would have been nothing coming her way from me. And I often say to my clients, it's like, who are in relationships and whatnot, it's like, so do they, she doesn't respect you. She, like, attraction, like, respect precedes attraction. Okay? So her respect plummeted. And then as that happened, we stopped having sex. And for two people in their mid-20s, that's odd. Especially, we've been together by that point about 6 months. So yeah, that's one example of a boundaryless dynamic.
It's a good one. I'm glad that you brought up like her anger. They say the 4 kryptonites, not even just for nice guys, for all men, but especially fucking nice guys. Ways women can control them is through 4 energies. Number 1 is her anger or rage. When she just starts coming at you. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I didn't mean that. Like, if she can control you with her anger, that's something that you'll be susceptible to. The next one is sadness, tears, as kind of a dark feminine trait. Yeah, we don't like to say like, oh, she's just crying to get her way, but to ignore the reality of that is to be a little bit ignorant in my perspective. Like, women can use their tears. You try to assert a boundary. Why are you late? I've been waiting up for 45 minutes. I'm sorry, I just didn't know to. And oh no, sorry, I didn't mean to. It's like you do it like that. Another way can be withdrawal. She just withdraws all her love and affection, and then you like feel that vacuum, and now you want to come in. And then the final one, which guys are most susceptible, is her sex. It's like she fucking takes you in the bathroom and starts like unbuttoning your pants. It's like, oh, don't worry that you were late or anything like that. But these are tools that in and of themselves can be fun, to be angry, sad, whatever. Sex is all great things, but these are also tools of the dark feminine that especially nice guys, but all men are very susceptible to. So I've had a lot of experiences like that, especially rage. It kind of like made me shut down if a woman got angry. But that's a great example of it there. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned sex as well, man. Because, there was, in that dynamic, in that relationship with her, there was this kind of like, what I now understand to be like an intermittent reinforcement sort of dynamic where she'd kind of go through phases of love bombing like an absolute motherfucker, and being sexually like ravenous. And then I'd be like, oh my God, I've won. I'm good. Oh my God, I feel loved and desired. And I'd be like, the dopamine would be addictive. But then she would just withdraw that fucking fully. And the kind of difference between when she was on and when she was off was so dramatic that you couldn't chalk it up just to normal fluctuations in sexual kind of interest. It was like so fucking obvious. It was whiplash inducing. So it really kept me on the line. And I just couldn't see it because I thought, okay, I'm basically the whole time I'm just dancing to her tune more or less. Because again, I'd pedestalized her because of her
Yeah.
attractiveness. I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, she's doing me a favor by being with me, so I can't speak up and say anything. So it's like, fuck you know. Looking
Yeah.
back, it's just such a screwed up dynamic, man. It's like, whoa.
Yeah, it's like you find
But
yourself in a
hindsight.
hole and there's no way to really get out of it. And this kind of leads me, there's so many things we could talk about, but I wanted to touch on this. It's just like the state of how you see men today, you know, like to me, there's kind of a split happening. You have guys kind of like waking up and like wanting to embody healthy masculine traits and wanting to find women who embody healthy feminine traits. And then you've also got like, I don't know if anyone in this category would even be listening to something like this, but it's just like the mainstream of men who are like happy wife, happy life, like just like running around their girls like little puppy dogs. These are the guys watching porn all the time, on the dating app, swiping for dopamine, not working on themselves. As soon as AI robots and AI girlfriend comes around, they're going to be the first ones signing up. Like, what are some of your thoughts on kind of where men are in the modern world today, maybe the hope for where the potential is, but also some of the dark places of where men are going at an alarming rate?
Mm. Yeah, man. I think in general, I think men are in a state where we are experiencing the downsides of so many things that we didn't get given. So if we think about ideally how a man is raised, you know, like a man who is competent, capable, assertive, all this other stuff, that doesn't just happen by accident. That's not actually, it doesn't just happen by way of biology or whatever. Um, what a man would need to do that is first of all, a healthy father figure, right? That's a man who's emotionally attuned to the child and also can play and step into the role of guide and mentor when needed, and also healthy boundaries and all that stuff. So many the men that I've worked with, and I need to be careful. I don't want to make broad generalizations based on my experience because I'm in my coaching work. I obviously don't work with. I work with men who are in some state of struggling in some way. So my sample size is kind of skewed a bit, but most I don't remember what philosopher it was that said that we live in the age of the absent father. You know, it's like the father is not there. You know, I see it in Thai boxing when I go Thai boxing all the time. There's lads that are like 15, 16. When I'm sparring with them, sometimes I'll give them just a little bit of encouragement, and their whole fucking body lights up. Like, did I do well? It's like, you kidding me, man? Is that all it took? Me just saying like good kick for him to be like, oh, I'm doing okay. It's like, poor motherfucking kid. His dad's probably not in the picture, right? So we don't have as many healthy fathers as we need. And we also don't have male connection in abundance. So without that, we don't have a mirror, really. We don't have other men around us that can challenge us and point out our blind spots and our shadow. And we also don't have rites of passage the way we used to. Men need rites of passage to mark specific stages. A good rite of passage back in the day would be taking the boy away from his mother. That was like a necessary thing. We'd take a boy away from his mother and we'd put him through some controlled trauma, right? That exposes him to life, but in the presence of loving men. We don't have that either. So now we've just got a shit ton of men who have not been given any blueprint. They've not been given any support or any encouragement. Actually, more often, they've been sort of attacked for things that they feel natural, like masculine energy. You know, there's like this climate of acceptable misandry. It's like perfectly okay to attack a bloke, even seen as humorous in some ways, whether in Hollywood or whatever. But you do the flip side, the double standard becomes immediate. And as a young man, how are you supposed to navigate that? You've not got a dad, you don't have male connection, not really. You've got no rites of passage. A lot of them are raised by single mothers. There's no men around. And you go online on Instagram and stuff, and you have all this general climate that men are basically just bad in general. It's like, so now you have lost boys walking around, and they don't know what they're doing. They've got no guidance, and they feel that. So I guess that's just a part of what my work aims to do. Is just, at some point. But yeah, and then this is why a lot of these boys slip into these extreme, like you've got two sides of the spectrum. You've got the happy wife, happy life, fucking ineffectual blokes that are basically silently suffering. So we don't want to emulate that. But then on the other side of the spectrum, you've got the extreme manosphere cult-like behavior. And it's like lost boys are naturally going to gravitate towards that. In the absence of any alternative, they're going to just be like, yeah, okay, here's this bloke talking about making money, get a fit body, women are this, women are that. It's like, well, at least it's something, right? But there's obviously problems with that too. So I think in general, man, lost boys, pretty much the age of the lost boy, of all ages.
Yeah, it's some brilliant points you brought up there. I think, like you said, the absent father. I wrote a post the other day about the collapse of the family unit, and it all kind of starts with the father. If you can fuck with him, automatically the wife loses respect because he's weak. Then that primary partnership is poisoned, and you see this in relationships everywhere. Then once the primary partnership's poisoned, then the child gets brought up in that environment, and then the confused children of today become the adults of tomorrow. So that whole cycle can be really messed up by the father. And if you make men strong again in a healthy sense, you can also heal that dynamic. And there's a lot of forces. We could go into feminism and all the stuff that's influenced it, but I think you hit on a really good point. I kind of came up in the pickup community myself. And I think there's a lot of lost boy energy in there. It's like you said, when you're a guy who's like not had girls, you've been alone, like someone offers you a hand, I can help you out. You don't ask too many questions. You're like, my life's a living hell. You thinking you can help me, like help me out with that. But having gone through that, being a coach and like seeing my own mentor who taught me a lot, but then I like got there. I'm like, yeah, you can seduce a lot of women. I can go up and pick up so many women, which I think guys should learn how to seduce women. I think that's a good skill. But again, there's a healthy and unhealthy version of it. And I was just seeing so many unhealthy versions of it from like these guys that everyone looks up to and pick up. And I was like, if you saw behind the curtain, like the stories I see, like when the coaches are talking to each other, I'm like, basically, I thought what makes you a man is you can make money and fuck girls, and that could be a consequence when you're fully embodied in your manhood. I think women do find you attractive. I think you do start making money, but it's almost like a consequence instead of like going for that directly. And I think the key piece that you brought up, which I think is so cool, and you talk about it a lot, is like a tribe of men, because in pickup, you kind of have a mentor and you have wingman, but it's like, kind of every man for himself and you're just like out there. But when you have healthy men around you calling you out and guiding you, like we need that so much. And this ties probably into the absent father thing, but without that, and you speak about men's groups a lot, men are just flailing out there. And to me, that's the missing piece. Men coming back together, embodying their masculinity in a healthy way, and helping guys in whatever avenue that might be, making money, seduction. But yeah, hopefully guys are getting to the point where they've seen the rah-rah stuff or the tactics and techniques that lacks the heart. And I feel like we're coming into a time now where guys want a bit of both. Yeah, we want the results and the strategies and stuff, but we also want the heart and the connection and the responsibility to wield that kind of power. So yeah, man, some
Yeah,
really good points. And yeah, I appreciate what you said.
yeah, mate. Yeah, and this is the one thing because I did I dived into a day game for about a year of my life, and that was enough, honestly, to learn what I needed to learn. Um, and I very much got the sense that the actual, when guys are doing day game, for example, I got the sense that there's something deeper happening, right? it's almost like men, in some ways, they're reclaiming something that they lost. Okay, so what you're doing when you're day gaming, you basically, okay, you are joining in some form of brotherhood, right? And the connections amongst men, they form in the fire of challenge, shared challenge, and that's been the case for as long as you go back. When we've got a goal that's difficult, we form a bond, right? So in day game, I just see that masculine energy, it will be expressed in some way. It can't be repressed forever. So when you've got all these guys walking around approaching women and stuff, and then coming back to the group and be like, fuck, that was brutal. That rejection was brutal. It's like we're stepping into challenge as a way of developing ourselves, but we're also reclaiming the sense of tribal belonging. So there's, again, I'm not a fan of the of tactics and strategy for my own reasons, but the underlying stuff. If some guy comes to me saying, you know what, I was just playing video games in my room, and I jumped into day game for like 6 months to a year, did pick up, and I got out there and stuff, confronted this fear of rejection and whatnot. I'm like, mate, fucking nice one, like nice one. Thank God, right? So, so there's. I'm always interested in what the deeper benefits here are and what's really going on, and is this an end result? You know, because I've met plenty of guys in the pickup community who they got stuck somewhere along their development journey, right? They're basically approaching women and having sex, and they've been doing that now for 10 years,
Yeah,
right?
I know guys like that. Yeah. They're ranting and raving about what their lay count is and trying to brag. And I'm like, you kind of missed the boat a little bit on that one. I feel like we could talk about this all day long, but I think we'll wrap it up here. I think we got into some juicy stuff. Who knows? Maybe we'll do a part 2 down the line. A lot more we could get into. Oliver, where's the best place for guys to reach out to you? I see you post a lot on Facebook. If guys want to reach out to you, learn about more of your coachings, your offerings, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so you can reach out to me on Facebook, Oliver Cowlishaw on Facebook. On Instagram, I'm Oliver Robert Lucas, because it's just easier, all one word, lowercase. And if you fancy on YouTube, just check me out on YouTube. And it's where I'm the most active. Oliver Robert Lucas on YouTube. I publish 1 to 2 videos a week.
Cool. Awesome stuff. We'll put those links down below. So if you guys are interested in Oliver's work, definitely go check him out. He knows his stuff, and I think he's teaching this stuff from a healthy place, which is really cool to see. So Oliver, thanks so much for joining us on the Magnetic Man podcast. And we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate you.